with the sweet potato spread, we have to cook an onion for it. So I'm going to start with that. I have a saute pan right behind me. Let's see, you can see my stove a little bit better. There we go. And I have, power of TV magic, I have one large onion cut up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to saute this for probably 10, 15, even 20 minutes. And I'm going to do it with the cover on so that it still remains moist, and it's going to get nice and jammy. It's going to be a really nice accent, savory accent to the sweet potato spread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit, about 2 tablespoons of olive oil into the pan. I'm going to add my onion and then a pinch of salt. The flame is on, it's on low. Get some olive oil here. Again, about 2 tablespoons. Add my onion. And a nice pinch of salt. Now the salt does a couple things. One, of course, it adds flavor. And the other that's really helpful and important here is that it is going to release the water and moisture from the onion, helping it cook better. Okay, so I just gave that a stir, and I'm just going to, like, honestly kind of forget about it for about 10 minutes. I'll give it a stir periodically. Okay, so there are 2 other components of this recipe that I've done ahead of time, and both of them are very low effort. So the first one was I roasted a sweet potato for 1 hour, turned on my oven, I stuck this in, I walked away, and then I came back, right? That's all you have to do. Very, very simple. And it makes your house smell really, really nice. So that was great. You don't have to use a sweet potato for this. You could use a pumpkin. You can use kabocha squash. Like, again, very customizable depending on what you have in your home. So now this is cool to touch. It's still kind of warm. So I'm going to peel this, and then I'm going to mash it into a bowl. The other thing that I have made ahead of time is this recipe calls for red lentils. I chose red lentils because of all the beans that I know of all the legumes I know of, this cooks super quickly. I mean, like 15 minutes, maybe. You don't have to soak in advance. That being said, if you still don't have time for that, just get a can of beans. Done, right? So I'm going to show you, I cooked these lentils and I've drained them. So they're ready to go. You just cook them until they start to fall apart. They're really, really soft. And so even if you overcook them, that's probably a good thing, right? Because we want it to be really mashable. Yeah, exactly. That being said, again, if you're like, I'm not going to cook these red lentils, lady, like this is too many stuff already. Can of beans, get some white beans, open it up, drain it, toss it in. And chickpeas, right? Like, you don't have to cook these beans on your own, but if you want to, it's in the recipe. Okay, so I have these beans, they're draining. I'm going to set them aside. Meanwhile, actually, I'm not going to set them aside. I'm going to start to put them. I have this bowl. This is where I'm going to assemble my mash. So first, pop these lentils in, and this was 1/4 cup of lentils. Let's see. I'm still just cooking this on a very low heat, just so it stays warm with onions. So these are the lentils. I would say this is like probably cooked. It's 1/2 cup, maybe a heaping 1/2 cup. The nice thing about this recipe, again, is it's customizable. So I even have in the notes where I say, if you want, you can add more beans. And what are beans going to do? 1, they're going to make it delicious. And 2, oh my gosh, they're going to add more protein. And the skin is on. Yeah. So it takes a little longer, but all that moisture in here remains. Like, if you were to chop it up, of course, that would expedite the process, but then it's going to be a little dry. And I mean, it's a spread, so it doesn't sound good to me, right? So I'm going to take this and angle you down, kind of break it up. Oh, it's still warm. I'm just going to throw it right in. my hands a little wash. And then I'm going to start mashing things together. Now you could use a potato masher.
Mm-hmm.
You could use a fork. I don't know what it is, but I love rubber scrapers. Okay. And then we're going to add the flavor components to this. So these are like the base, right? Like the sweet potato is the bulk. We've got some lentils up in the protein content, and they're delicious, right? Mm-hmm. But they have a fairly neutral flavor, so they're not adding that much flavor-wise. The other thing that we're going to do is we're adding 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Mm-hmm. Now, this is going to do a couple things. One, it's going to add a little bit of probiotic bacteria to it. But the main thing that it's going to do is it's going to add some sourness, some punch and pizzazz to this guy. And when you think about a sweet potato, it's such a comfort food. It's really calming, bit sweet. It's but it's a little it's not light. Mm-hmm. It's not super heavy, but it's not light. And so what this apple cider vinegar does, it just like gives a little lift. Mm-hmm. It threads throughout and it just sort of makes everything pop.
Beautiful.
Yeah? Along with that, again, I'm always thinking about flavors and how they marry together, how they meld together. So we have 3 other game players here. The second thing we're adding is 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. But you could use honey in this. You could use just plain sugar. You could chop up some dates and throw that in, you know, like you can get creative with it. Wow. So mixing that in. And then this is one of my all-time favorite ingredients. If you follow me on Instagram, if you ever look at my breakfast, I have this like every day. This is white miso, okay? So put in 2 tablespoons. I love miso. What does miso bring to the table? I think many of you, well, some of you are probably like, oh, that is so weird. I only have miso in soup. Oh, my friend, you are missing out. It is one of the best ingredients. So combining these all together. And then the last thing, we're going to take our onions and garlic, which are savory in their own right. We're going to add this directly to the mash, to the spread. I cut these in a longer style because I like having that kind of texture. And I'm also going to add in just a little bit more olive oil here, just to make it a bit smoother. And because any chef will tell you, the fat carries the flavor, right? A lot of fat-free things, they can be boring because you don't have there's a lot of flavor molecules in fat, and a lot of flavorful things are fat soluble, so you need that to carry it. So I'm adding a little bit more fat for the mouthfeel, but also to help things just like sing more. It provides like a vehicle for taste. Okay, so check it out. Got this. Stir, stir, stir. And then, and the last thing, this is Aleppo chili. You can just use any chili flake of choice. You can use as much or as little as you like, or none. It's all up to you. But I really like the heat that it adds. I think this is a really nice component. So stirring this around. Now, this is smooth, but a chunky smooth, which kind of seems like an oxymoron, but I think you know what I mean. If you wanted something that was ultra smooth, I would just transfer this to a food processor and just process it until it's like really creamy, and that would be wonderful. For those of you who like a little bit of texture, you can just leave it as it is right now, right? And again, I would package this up, pop it in the fridge, and throughout the week, you can spread it on toast. You can put it on crackers, like dip. You can have some kind of crudité like celery sticks, carrot sticks, radishes, and just dip. Another thing that might seem a little strange, but is actually quite good, I mentioned earlier, is a pasta sauce. Now, this is a little thick. So what you would do is maybe make your pasta and reserve some of the pasta water and thin this, and then mix together. And it's really delightful. Taste it. I'm so sorry that you're not here to taste with me.
That's okay. So good.
Good. I love it when I put something in my mouth and I'm like, done. Nailed it.